I would like to call this meeting to order. Welcome to all, and thank you for coming out to tonight's meeting of the Peoria Planning and Zoning Commission. We're doing a roll call. Commissioner Nancy Golden.
Present.
Commissioner Leonard Spriker.
Present.
Commissioner Greg Loper.
Present.
Commissioner Sean Hutchinson.
Present.
Commissioner Bill Lewis.
Present.
Commissioner Jay Outlowski is not present tonight. Commissioner Jeff Nelson.
Present.
And I am Commissioner Lee Strickman. This commission is composed of Peoria citizens who have been appointed by the City Council to serve on the commission as a civic responsibility without compensation. Our duty is to study and review planning and zoning issues within the City of Peoria and then forward our recommendations to the City Council. All hearings are conducted in accordance with the rules for procedure and Robert's Rules of Order. Each case will be called in the order in which it appears on the agenda unless otherwise announced during the meeting. In the interest of maintaining a fair and efficient hearing, the Commission adheres to the following steps. Chairperson calls the case, staff gives a brief report and recommendation, applicant gives a presentation, opposition and support gives testimony, generally limited to 3 minutes per speaker, applicant may give a rebuttal, Commission discussion and decision. Anyone wishing to speak must complete a speaker's request form and hand it to the planning assistant on my left. Please be as brief as possible and do not repeat statements already made by others. Anyone wishing to protest the decision of a commission public hearing item must request a second public hearing before the City Council. The request must be submitted in writing to the Planning and Community Development Department within 10 days after the Commission's hearings. All Commission recommendations on public hearing items move forward to a regular City Council meeting. The City Council will then act on the recommendation of the Commission. They may concur with the decision, modify it, or overturn it. We welcome citizens' comments, and as fellow citizens of Peoria, we thank you in advance for your participation. This is the final call to submit speaker request forms. If anyone wishes to speak, please fill out a speaker request form and provide it to the staff seated to my left at the end of the dais. The consent agenda is for items that are routine in nature and consist of 2 items tonight. 1C is disposition of absence, discussion and possible action to approve, excuse the absences of Commissioners Nancy Golden and Greg Loper at the October 1st, 2015 meeting. 2C is discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on October 1st, 2015. Do any commissioners have any questions and/or comments? Okay. Do I have a motion? Commissioner Loper.
Madam Chair, I would move for the approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hutchinson. Please vote. Okay, and that does pass unanimously. Now we move on to new business. The first agenda item is 3R. It's a project update. Staff will discuss the draft massage establishment zoning ordinance text amendment and seek input and direction from the Commission with regards to the draft ordinance. No action will be taken on this item. Staff, please present your report.
Madam Chair, members of Commission, good evening. My name is Randy Proch, planner with the City of Peoria. This agenda item is 3R. This is a project update for the massage establishment's text amendment. Now, this was initiated by Hand & Stone Massage and Facial Spa. They are represented by Buse Gilbert. The current procedure is to obtain a conditional use permit, and massage establishments are subject to special limitations as followed. All vehicular access is required to be from an arterial street. There is a 1,000-foot separation distance requirement between certain uses. These are all the personal services we'll discuss further in the presentation. The separation distance is measured from the property line. Property line is underlined because, as you'll see in an upcoming slide, there was a fairly recent variance case that came forward as well regarding massage establishments. Now, this distance requirement applies regardless of adjacent areas are incorporated in the county or in another jurisdiction. Now, the discussion item tonight and our intent for feedback is in regards to should massage establishments be reclassified as a permitted principal use in commercial zoning districts. Now, currently, they're required to be in a non-residential district. They are considered a personal service, and as of today, only 4 of the 12 non-residential districts permitted massage establishments, and that's again if the conditional use permit is obtained. The pictures show a number of examples where there are current massage establishments. The top right is actually within the city of Glendale, just north of Bell Road at 83rd Avenue. There's a Massage Envy located there. The left middle picture is of the southeast corner of 75th Avenue in Bell Road, the Arrowhead Palm Center, where there is a current Hand and Stone massage and facial spa location. The bottom right-hand corner is Lake Pleasant Parkway and Happy Valley Road. Currently, of the 4 centers, only 1 allows massage establishments, again, through the CUP process, and that's the northwest corner, Lake Pleasant Town Center, and there is a Massage Envy there as well. Now, massage establishments are a personal service. Others include body piercing studios, tattoo studios, retail liquor stores, plasma centers, non-chartered financial institutions, and pawn shops. These all came together into the city through Ordinance 00-28, so in the year 2000, these were all added. Now, recent cases include Elements Massage, same CUP process in 2012, Awen's Day Spa, CUP in 2013, and one previously mentioned Hand and Stone Massage went through a variance case and a CUP in 2014. The picture indicates where Hand and Stone wanted to go in the upper right-hand dot in the Arrowhead Palms Center. The lower left-hand dot indicates a iconic tattoo is the name of the establishment. Now, these commercial centers were very large parcels. As it stands today, the separation of 1,000 feet is in property line, not door to door. This variance case moved forward, was granted as the 2 uses are outside of that 1,000-foot requirement. Now, here are some of the concerns, to consider moving forward as we go through this text amendment process. There's concerns of clustering similar establishments, the detrimental impact to adjacent properties or businesses, any sort of prostitution, human trafficking, or other illegal activities. Restrictions do not apply to businesses where massage and accessory use. That goes back to our current definition, which allows massage establishments as an accessory use if your principal use is a salon, haircutting, something similar to that nature. It has to be, within the 50% threshold or as the accessory instead of the principal use of the business. Now, the other thing that's come up more recently is reflexology. Reflexology is exempt from the state definition of massage. They're not considered the same sort of business. Now, the other concern is unduly limiting locations or areas where legitimate establishments can locate. This goes more to the lines of North Peoria. Currently, of the 4 corners of the major commercial center at Happy Valley and Lake Pleasant, only 1 allows massage establishments. And through the PAD documents and through in Hand and Stone's concern for bringing this forward tonight, there's a BevMo located in Lake Pleasant Pavilions in the southwest corner, near where they wanted to go. With the 1,000-foot separation requirement, there's concern that they wouldn't be able to move forward any part of that property. Now, currently, these are located in properties that are C2 zoning or PADs that have an underlying C2 zoning. C2 is found throughout the city. It's our most common commercial district. Now, they are located on their own parcel. Generally, they're part of a larger retail center. And typically, looking at current massage establishments or spas that offer massage services, they're anywhere from 100 to 1,000 feet away from residential homes. Now, here's some considerations. We need to recognize and regulate establishments that depict primary uses to be massage. We can look at individualizing limitations on the use and or operations to reflect more of a retail setting. The state of Arizona does have clear standards for licensing, continuing education. Receiving your license up front to begin with is a extensive amount of coursework and classes that need to be involved. Also, our definition doesn't reflect all of the professions and occupations that are in the revised statutes, so that does need to be updated to reflect naturopathic and homeopathic licensed physicians that could offer this as well. And we do have provisions currently in our city code to address the illicit behavior that can occur regardless of the use, regardless of the business. Now, depending on our discussion tonight, if you have any questions, our tentative plan is to bring this back on November 19th for a formal consideration and recommendation by this commission. And our main emphasis tonight is, should massage establishments be reclassified as a permitted principal use in commercial zoning districts, and should any of the existing limitations of use be continued moving forward? I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Loper.
Madam Chair, thank you, and great presentation. And I'm really curious, Commissioner Lewis, your take on this. Times they are a-changing, and personally, I like the direction this is going. Massage parlors, it's kind of an outdated phrase. You drive around, would I have a problem with a Massage Envy down the road, just to pick one of the particular massage establishments? No, I wouldn't. Would I have a problem with a tattoo place? No. I mean, this isn't the 1940s, 50s, 60s, where maybe there was some consideration for regulating those. There are, as you pointed out, other avenues to address bad behavior. So as a pro-business person, I think this is great. This gives opportunity to fill in some shop space where it could be needed. I'm personally not in favor of continuing those limitations of use, like the spacing or direct access to an arterial. But, if it's in a commercial area, it's a commercial operation. So I'm definitely in support of the way this is headed. Like to see staff think about doing it for a number of those other uses that are listed as ones that are conditionally permitted as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Spriker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a comment. Dittoing what Mr. Loper had to say, it would seem to me with the conditions that are there, you have to apply for the 1,000-foot and not near a liquor store or what have you. In a way, it appears that the regulations as they currently exist are really policing regulations and moral regulations by maybe projection of one's personal thoughts about what a massage parlor is or what a liquor store is. Now, some people don't drink, but it's not too difficult to put up a liquor store next to Walmart. But here a while back, we had a gentleman from Scottsdale in front of us to put up a cannabis store in a couple different locations. He ended up near Walmart. For the life of me, I can't see where there's much difference between a liquor store, a cannabis store, and a massage parlor, frankly, in terms of doing whatever they do for the community. And if any one of them commits a crime or goes against what is for the betterment of the community, I think that falls under policing action. And I don't think the commission here or the city itself in terms of planning, city planning, really has any police function whatsoever, just to regulate the stores in the neighborhood to meet the needs of the people that are there. So I think this is really a good move. Thank you.
Commissioner Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I sort of agree with what you guys are saying, not totally, though. I think we need more information. I, for one, would like to have more information. I'd like to have the police department weigh in and see what their thoughts are on this issue. I agree with Commissioner Loper that times are changing, and I think it is time for us to take a look at some of these regulations for some of these businesses and some of the restrictions that we play on them. But there was a reason back in the day that this was put in here the way that it was, or the way that it currently is. And I think we need to take a look at that. If those reasons still exist today, then maybe we need to look pretty closely at this, but if we want to modify it or leave it the way it is. But I would sure like to hear from law enforcement in the city what their thoughts are on this. If this is an industry that they typically have problems at, I don't think they do, but I would sure like to hear from the police department and know, have them do a little historical research maybe on existing ones and get a little input from them.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, we have had some contact with the police department. Certainly for the next hearing, we could get some historical data from the police department in terms of if there have been any issues from any of the existing establishments throughout the city. What I can tell you is when this ordinance was put into place back in 2000, I think part of it was some older perceptions of, arguably, of massage establishments. There was a thought that if there was an overconcentration of certain types of uses, you saw the list, the liquor stores, tattoo parlors, that it could promote or possibly lead to maybe a decline in the neighborhoods. And so was the interest in trying to spread these out or disperse some of these uses. And so it's definitely a good question. Arguably, massage establishments have become more clinical today. You see them in many contexts throughout cities, and many of the things that Randy has talked about. And so the question is, should it still require a conditional use permit? And if not, should there still be a separation requirement? And I think that's good discussion we're having tonight on that. But we'll certainly get that historical data for you.
Commissioner Golden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did have a question on, I think there are like day spas, and I know I used to go to a chiropractor. He had a massage place where you don't have to be going in for treatment, but you can go in for massages. Is there some kind of balance there? I mean, is it, if you give massages, this works for you, or is it if you only do 10% of your business is massage, it doesn't count? I mean, I guess I think there are more than what's listed here give massages.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Golden, as it stands in our current definition, if you are a principally massage establishment, you go through the conditional use permit process, you are subject to special limitations. The last sentence of our lengthy definition, frankly, currently has a myriad of uses that, if that is the principal use, a salon, facials, manicures, pedicures, and massage is only an accessory use, so less than 50%. Generally, it's a salon first and may have one chair in the building or in the suite that does massage as another use. They do not go through this process, and they're not subject to going through this.
And another question I have is, I'm not familiar with this term, non-chartered financial institutions. Is that like the payday loan thing?
That's correct.
I got it. Okay. I mean, I do like the fact that we're thinking about consolidating sort of personal services in the same location. So I would support something very similar to this. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at this, and I kind of agree with some of my commissioners in that I think it should be allowed in commercial zoning districts. I can't figure out why it wouldn't be. As far as limitations, I have mixed feelings about that. Frankly, I do lots of massages, and if you have a good massage, you ain't going to the bar afterwards. So I'm not sure it matters, but I think the big thing is controlling the massage issue, and I think that's the concern. But I think this is a good plan, personally. Thank you. Any other commissioners have any comments? Okay. So since this is not a public hearing, we're just going to move on to the next agenda item.
Correct.
Which is 4R, public hearing regarding PCD amendment, Lake Pleasant Heights, Z0305A-1. Staff, please present your report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Let me know if you can hear me. Otherwise, I can adjust the microphone. A little better?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I have the task tonight to condense a very lengthy staff report into a very short presentation, so bear with me, ask questions as needed. Project before you this evening is Lake Pleasant Heights. The applicants are Tim Connors from Iota Purple, who is acting also on behalf of State Trust Land, and we also have Ellen Bodwin here representing Group 3 in Noranda Properties. This is actually a unique situation. We often do not have co-applicants. This is unique in that condition. Lake Pleasant Heights is approximately 3,268 acres. It is a master plan community consisting of a mix of uses, including residential, commercial, public facilities, and open space. For context, the project is situated within northern Peoria at the southern foothills of the Hieroglyphic Mountain Range, and it's just southwest of Lake Pleasant. So more specifically, the boundaries are Joy Ranch Road on the north, you have Lone Mountain Road on the south, about 123rd and 131st Avenue alignments on the west, and you also have 115th Avenue alignment on the east. Like I said, it is a mix of ownership. The private ownership consists of approximately 1,872 acres. Also, state trust land is associated with this project as well. They comprise 1,396 acres of the project. To the north of the project, you have land which is managed by the Bureau of Land Management. To the east, you have property that's held in state trust by the Arizona State Land Department. And you also have similar master plan communities of Saddleback Heights and Vistancia over on the west and to the south. Like those sister communities, master plan communities, Lake Pleasant Heights is zoned PCD, which is Planned Community District. And the PCD zoning district is intended to accommodate large-scale developments such as this to create a unified yet comprehensively planned development. So the PCD district actually provides an alternative to accommodate substantial developments which are not otherwise possible under conventional zoning. So the request before you this evening is a major amendment to the existing Lake Pleasant Heights PCD to align the zoning standards to be consistent with the general plan SAP requirements. So I'll touch on that briefly now. So with over 3,000 acres in its boundary, Lake Pleasant Heights is a substantial project. And like any project of this size, it continues to evolve over time. So consequently, there have been a number of refinements in both the land use, the general plan, and both corresponding zoning standards as well. Specifically, the Lake Pleasant Specific Area Plan was adopted by Council in 1994. It actually covered approximately 9,000 acres, which would be the makeup of Saddleback Heights and Lake Pleasant Heights as you see it today. So the private property within that 9,000 acres split into two ownership groups. Each group subsequently came in to amend their entitlement at that point in time. In 2005, Lake Pleasant, as you see it today, started to take shape, and the council approved an amendment to the Lake Pleasant Heights SAP. It diversified the housing that was there in there. It had open space. It identified resort and golf development, parks and open space, and public facilities. We all know after 2005, the economy shifted a little bit. So basically, the applicants, as they are today, came back in and modified to reposition the property going forward to better evolve with what the economic conditions are of today. So in 2012, they submitted an amendment to the Lake Pleasant Heights SAP. That increased the maximum number of residential units within this area, within this project more specifically, at 6,561 units. It also amended and took out the resort golf development use. So these exhibits up on the screen right now are showing the existing entitlement as it is today. On the left is the general plan, and the land uses shown actually reflect the 2012 adjustments to that SAP as I've talked about. On the right is the zoning map. And as I've highlighted earlier, Saddleback Heights and Vistancia are zoned PCD similar to Lake Pleasant Heights. While Lake Pleasant Heights is zoned PCD, the underlying uses, the densities and intensities, and more importantly, the development standards correspond to the 2005 general plan that was shown. So the next logical step in the process is to update the PCD, the underlying development standards, to mirror what's possible within that general plan, that SAP document. So the applicant is proposing modifications to the PCD tonight to be in line with that 2012 amendment that occurred. They're also proposing modifications to the associated development agreement to ensure consistency between the development agreement and the PCD. That will be the development agreement will be a part of the City Council deliberation when this case moves forward to that hearing for final action. So the PCD identifies a maximum of 6,561 units that is consistent with the Lake Pleasant Heights amendment to the SAP in 2012. Of that total, 4,304 units can be distributed on privately held land. 2,257 units will occur on the state land pieces. So that translates roughly to a residential unit density on the privately owned land of about 2.3 units per acre. For the state land piece, it's a 1.6 units per acre. The overall density is just slightly over 2.0 units per acre. There's a significant range in density intensity that's anywhere from 1.0, which would be large lot estate homes, to 24 units per acre, which would be a higher product density. There are 5 corresponding land uses, as you see on the map. They range from a very tan color to purple. They go from estate, which would be the large lot, all the way up to the mixed use in the purple. So out of those 5 categories, the PCD proposes a range of flexible zoning. In total, there are 18 zoning districts, actual districts. The same methodology has been successfully used in Vistancia, and it provides the developer more flexibility to respond to market conditions as the project moves forward. So this kind of sets the vision, if you will, in a little bit more defined manner. And then as actual home builders and developers continue forward, that's when they determine what the demands of the market and what this will actually yield. There are 3 commercial mixed-use nodes. They are approximately 113 acres in size. And to give you an idea, Lake Pleasant Heights is anticipated to be developed in 3 basic phases, 6 sub-phases, and those will be determined on based on demand at that point. The first phase is shown in yellow, and make sure the pointer works here. This is the dividing line between the Central Arizona project, the Cap Canal. So the first phase of development will occur south of the Cap. And it is anticipated to continue north as it goes forward. So similar to its sister neighbors, master plan communities, Lake Pleasant Heights utilizes a village-like concept. More specifically, the 1,300 acres is divided into 6 development units, as you see on the map on the left. Each development unit is then further defines how the residential units are distributed throughout the project. The colored table on the right summarizes the density and intensity information from the graphic. So essentially, there's a projected low number of residential houses within each unit. There's also a maximum number of units or homes that each development unit can have. And it totals up to the 6561, which is the maximum allowed by the general plan. Lake Pleasant Heights offers a number of community amenities. Because this is a multi-year phased project, staff believes a ramp approach provides the applicants the appropriate flexibility to meet the demands of the market, along with remaining current with city standards as they continue to evolve. RAMP actually stands for Recreation Amenities Master Plan. In this instance, the RAMP acts like a mini master plan, identifying both a project-wide set of amenities as well as neighborhood amenities for that particular area. So each ramp, as it comes forward, and there will be 6, needs to identify conceptually the wash preservation corridors, private and public open space, neighborhood parks, mini parks, paths, trails, bike systems, any trailheads, and how this all connects together for a quality of life. There's approximately 1,300 or 1,350 acres of open space. That's about 40% of the actual project size. So the project-wide amenities are shown on the screen. What I'm going to do is animate those for you so you can see them better. There are 2 trailheads. First one is south of the CAP. Let's see if we, right here. Second one is all the way up north, and this is in the Big Springs easement area. We have 3 neighborhood parks. They are popping up. First one is also south of the CAP. We have one in the middle of the project and one up here in state land. We have 2 elementary schools being proposed. First one is south of the CAP, adjacent to the neighborhood park, so they have the possibility of sharing the facilities. Also to the north, adjacent to the park as well, would be another potential elementary school. We do have 1 proposed fire station location that is pretty much in the center of the project for equal distribution. So in addition to those community-wide amenities, there are anticipated to be a number of local amenities as well. We are expecting a number of mini parks or mini HOA parks. Those will be in accordance with city standards in terms of spacing, size, et cetera. And we will also be linking these, as I mentioned, with open space, bikes, trails. And as you see, there's trails along the CAP. There's an equestrian trail. We have natural surface trails, bike lanes, and multi-use paths as well. From the circulation and utility standpoint, Lake Pleasant Heights will utilize city water, reclaimed water, and wastewater services. The applicants have partnered with the city and adjacent communities in designing a regional utility solution for the North Peoria area. Primary ingress and egress into this project will be from El Mirage, and that will be starting during phase 1. Westland Road is a major east-west connection and a significant connection from a circulation and utility standpoint. And I'll use the mouse. This would be El Mirage coming up in north-south, Westland Road, east-west. So since the Lake Pleasant Heights SAP approval, there's been some additional engineering analysis that's occurred. Originally, the alignment of Westland had a dip in it as it went along towards Vistancia. And because of that subsequent analysis, there is a proposed realignment of Westland and incorporated within the PCD. The extension of the infrastructure is expected to occur in tandem with the phasing of the development. From a hillside and desert lands conservation standpoint, the city administers the Hillside District and the Desert Lands Conservation Standards. And those ordinances were created to apply to across a number of landscapes. And unlike many hillside areas, the terrain within Lake Pleasant Heights is heavily undulating. So therefore, strict adherence to those standards is challenging. So the applicants are proposing to modify those and tailor them to the actual development itself to better suit the conditions within the community. That being said, they have worked closely with staff, and those proposed standards maintain the same high level of design and quality and livability that standards such as approved within Vistancia and Saddleback Heights. So they are equal in level of quality and design in that standpoint. From a public participation standpoint, master plan communities have some unique complexities due in part because of their size and location. Major amendments to those type of communities typically require a lot more collaboration and interaction with various departments and agencies to work through items. And Lake Pleasant Heights is no exception to that. This request was actually submitted back in 2013. So shortly thereafter, the applicants held a neighborhood meeting in April of 2013, and it was attended by 2 property owners, city staff, and a Vistancia representative. The property owners had more inquiry questions at the time. They had no concerns expressed with the proposal that was presented. In terms of this meeting, public notice of the hearing was sent out to adjacent property owners and HOA members in accordance with the zoning ordinance. Staff has received no support or opposition to the proposal. As I mentioned before, there are 2 elementary schools within Lake Pleasant Heights. The entire project is within the boundaries of Peoria Unified School District. Both the district and the applicant have reached an agreement, and that was included in the staff packet. So key findings. Staff finds that this request is consistent with the general plan and the Lake Pleasant Heights specific area plan, as I've discussed. This request advances the intent of Lake Pleasant Heights Planned Community District. This request results in the continuation of a well-designed, well-appointed master plan community with a blend of meaningful open space, recreation, commercial uses, and opportunities for a diverse mix of housing. And the applicants have indicated they are willing to execute a Proposition 207 waiver. So with that, staff is recommending approval of case Z03-05A.1, subject to the conditions as stated in the staff report. With that, I will be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions of staff? Okay. I have opened the public hearing. Is the applicant present? Would you like to come to the podium and speak? Can you state your name and address for the record, please, sir?
My name is Tim Connors. I live in Long Beach, California.
Yeah.
I'll keep my words brief. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to be back before the committee and to present what we hope and believe is a well-thought-out and significant plan for Peoria and for the community and for Northwest Peoria in general with our neighbors to the south of Estancia. We're anxious to move forward to the next step and get our development agreement negotiated and be before City Council as soon as possible opportunity. So thanks for the opportunity to present to you today.
Thank you. So I assume you are in agreement with staff recommendations?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
and I'd like to add that staff did a tremendous job, and we're exceptionally grateful for the help that they brought to the process.
Okay. Commissioner Golden, do you have questions of the applicant?
I just have one quick question. The property, if I understand it correctly, the property abuts Blackstone,
Correct.
and, in that area right now, that's sort of the premier community. Can you tell me how the density is different between Blackstone and your development, and then what's going to separate the two?
So the densities that we have adjacent to the Blackstone are some of the lowest densities that we have on the project. The densities in what I like to call the Southwest 160, which is that quarter section immediately adjacent to Blackstone, are currently entitled at a low density level development of 2 to 5 development units per acre. So essentially, quarter acre lots are larger. So we expect very much a product type and a feel and a flavor that is very much in line with what you see out there today with Blackstone. We're hoping to build upon the success that the Blackstone has brought and to create a similar feel to that area.
And then what's going to separate the two communities? Is there I'm sure you don't directly abut them. I mean, there's going to be something between your community and Blackstone.
In terms of
A
some
wash.
physical barrier
I
divided?
mean, is it going to be a wash, a road,
The washes will remain, the existing washes will be maintained in their current configuration, and then the lots will be developed. We haven't parcelized it yet, so I don't have a specific answer to tell you how, but we will have single-family parcels in that location that will conform to the existing setbacks in relatively large-sized lots. As I say, 2 to 5 per acre, so you're looking at quarter to half acre lots,
Okay.
single-family lots.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Spriker, do you have questions for the applicant?
Yes, I do. Thank
Okay.
you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure if this is for you or for staff, but What is the difference, or what causes the difference in density between private property and state trust lands? There was a significant difference in the density between the two.
Well, fundamentally, in the state trust land areas, it's topography. They are in, a significant portion of the state trust land is up in the more hillside areas, which just make development and density more difficult. Down below the CAP, it's a little bit more of a uniform topography and a consistent grade that runs across the site, whereas the further north you get, the more terrain you have to attend to.
Thank you.
Okay. If there are no more questions of the applicant, I do have some speaker request forms. My first speaker request form is Chris Hansen. Well, I take them in order of the way I've received them. If you could please state your name and address for the record.
Okay, my name is Chris, it's K-R-I-S, Hanson, H-A-N-S-O-N, 31643 North 127th Drive, Peoria, and I live in the Blackstone neighborhood, exactly where Commissioner Golden was just referring to. So currently, my house backs up exactly, I mean, it's open desert behind me now off 127th Drive. And if there was a slide where you have the lower like heel on the southwest corner, and there's a curved line, that's a natural wash. I don't know if you could show one. Okay, so yeah, right up there. So the green left lower corner, and you'll see that curved line is a wash. As far as the separation between Blackstone and the Lake Pleasant Heights development, first of all, I agree that it is the lowest density of 2 to 5 homes per acre, but there's a big difference between 2 homes or 5 homes. So 2 would be better than 5. But if that space could separate Blackstone, so from the wash that they can't develop anyway, over to what is currently 127th Drive are the homes on that, and make that an open space or green area, even if it came from other areas that are currently designated as open space, just take some of that acreage, move it there to get a space between the current Blackstone, separate those communities so that, you know, it's a nice buffer between the two. It's some selfishness on my point, I would say, but still, I think it would be very enhance both of them here in the low density of the new, and we have all single-story large lot homes with the K-Hob and T.W. Lewis on what is currently Blackstone. And the second thing I'd like to say is that where it does start, because of T.W. Lewis and Blackstone being all single-family homes, or excuse me, single-story homes, that if they could feather back with starting with single-story homes, which would allow more privacy into the backyards of both, it would just, in my opinion, it would be a nice phase or flow between the two communities. And that's really all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hansen. Okay, the next speaker I have is Alan Boudin.
For the record, Alan Bodwin, 120 South Ash Avenue, Tempe, co-applicant on this application, representing Group 3 properties and the Rander properties, which is 780 acres of the total application area here. All we wanted to say tonight is appreciation to staff. Lori's presentation was, in my opinion, exceptional. I think she provided some tremendous information for you and given a great overview of the history of the property, how it's configured, the densities, the open space, the amenities, the public facilities. I think she did a thorough job. And also our co-applicant has worked extensively to get us to this point with regards to the components within the PCD. As you see indicated in the material I provided, we're here in support of the application. The only reservation, and staff is aware of this, that we have standing here tonight, and it's not anything we believe that the Planning Commission could address, is stipulation 13 in your packet. Essentially talks about a prohibition of development north of the CAP until there's a bridge constructed over the CAP. It's our opinion that the application and the approval doesn't need to be that harsh, and in the next few weeks, we intend to work with emergency response departments, police and fire, as well as public works, to talk about whether or not it needs to be that strict, and we hope to get that addressed and softened a little bit with regards to how the project might evolve and develop in phases over time. And so thank you for listening, and we urge you to support the application tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have any questions of the co-applicant? Oh, okay. I don't know if it's the scope of this particular hearing, but in the comment that was made as far as the two-story homes not being right into the Blackstone area, I don't know if that has anything to do with this. Will that be at a future hearing?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, as the project moves forward, you will be seeing a number of preliminary plats and additional plans coming forward. So you will have significant opportunities in the future to address landscaping, single-story, two-story, other types of setback conditions at that point in time.
Okay, thank you. Does that kind of... Oh, I knew it wouldn't happen. Okay. Okay. Do any other commissioners have any questions? Oh. Hey, okay, I lost my place. I am now closing the public hearing. Any comments from the commissioners? No? Okay. Oh, okay, Commissioner Spriker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the staff. The gentleman brought up condition 13. What's the thinking behind that? To say that construction north of the CAP is prohibited until construction is completed and a letter of completion has been issued for the El Mirage bridge crossing. Is there an alternate way that
Madam Chair, Commissioner Spriker, it's a good question. Let me generally phrase it in the following manner. Discussions with transportation staff and emergency services staff would like to see the bridge in place as currently the other bridge that goes across the CAP is within Vistancia itself. This would mean that we have a larger response time, and so that's part of the analysis going forward, is if they were to go the other direction across the Vistancia bridge, would that be an acceptable response time? So those are kind of the issues that we need to work through.
Madam Chair, a couple of things. One is I think that the correlation or the analogy of Vistancia was very fitting for this. If you look at one of the premier master plan communities in the valley, and one of the very few that continue to have success during the downturn, was Vistancia. And I think we do best for Peoria and for the future generations when we help master plan communities come along. And responding to market needs is exactly what you're doing here. I remember, reflects on my age, but I remember when the PCD or some of the amendments and discussions came through, not only on this, but the project to the west. And I fully support what you're trying to do. A couple of thoughts, and I appreciate the gentleman talking about wanting to protect what's going on next to you. I always say this in zoning cases, and I get vilified for it, but I'll say it again, is that what they're doing today, to the best of my knowledge, isn't anything above and beyond really what they were doing when your project came forward and when your home was built. And so I wouldn't want to impose additional burdens on them now because they have somebody next to them when this project's been in play for a number of years. And the other question too, or the other comment I had as well, is that in regards to the bridge crossing, had a home builder hat when Vistancia started with the bridge over the Beardsley Canal and the CAP, as well as a Rancho Cabrillo project there. And those bridge crossings can be very challenging. They're extremely expensive. I wasn't aware of this before the hearing, and I hate to do stuff off the cuff, but I would be a proponent of doing away with that stipulation and making it more performance driven. For instance, today we have, for Vistancia, we have traffic generation thresholds that would necessitate the extension of 107th Avenue or another bridge crossing. And to me, that's a better way to look at it. In some ways, you don't want to create a very real buffer for transportation emergency services access by eliminating a bridge altogether. On the other hand, you don't want to unduly burden the first phases of development by requiring that right up front. And so I think that I would like to see, rather than a mandated bridge, when development starts to happen that way, I'd like to see more of a performance-driven, maybe based on traffic generation or dwelling unit counts or something like that, I would think. And again, hats off to the development team on this for cooperating, both developers together. Outstanding graphics as usual. Pictures are worth 1,000 words, but with that said, also an excellent presentation on your part, Lori. That's it. Thank you.
Something's gone weird. I'm not sure who's hitting the buttons. I've got wrong names on here.
Raise your hands.
I've got Bridget. Who's Bridget?
Oh, right.
Okay. It's Commissioner Golden.
Okay.
Fix now.
I'm sure there's something I'm missing. And my assumption is that up in this development, there is not going to be any properties that will be allowing horses, but yet I see there are horse trails. Oh, what am I missing? Why are we having horse trails and not just recreational trails?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I think I might like to have one of the applicants address, because that goes into potential demographics and marketability. However, that being said, the equestrian trail on the above the cap is, that requirement is coming from our community services staff. So there is the opportunity, because that horse trail connects into additional areas. So I will let the applicant actually speak to what their possible marketing would be, but the equestrian trail is more for the connection of all residents, not only for this project, but for the surrounding community as well.
Okay. And there'll be some kind of parking facility because people will be bringing their horses there, right?
Ma'am, yes, ma'am. They potentially will be bringing their horses. This trail will connect into the Twin Buttes area over to the west of the property. There's going to be a trailhead located on the Lake Pleasant Heights site, so there's opportunities to rest the horses on the property at that point in time.
And these trails will be connected, so the next property they could, right? And that's really our goal. I think in Peoria is keeping these, whether it's for trails for horses or trails for people, but to keep them all connected so that we can have miles and miles of trails. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Hutchinson.
I'm sorry, could you go over the stipulation again about the bridge and the premise that behind why it was placed into the as a stipulation?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Hutchinson, could you rephrase your question, please?
I'm curious of the premise of why the bridge is being required.
Thank you, Commissioner. The premise of the stipulation right now is based on the current information available. It is the recommendation of staff that the development not occur north of the CAP until a bridge is constructed that would allow a secondary means of access, both from the Vistancia side and above on El Mirage, to respond to any type of incidences in that northern area. So it provides a secondary means of access. But it would be the primary means of access for any property being developed up to the north of the CAP.
That was all I had.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Same thing on this item 13. I think it should be left in there. If I've understood this correctly, there is going to be further talks and meetings with police and fire to discuss what the response times, projected response times might be with or without that. I think it's prudent to have a second bridge. I realize for routine traffic ingress and egress in there, that's one thing. But in times of an emergency, when especially a multiple response emergency where you have a child drowning or something where there's going to be police, fire, multiple units going, you might have one police unit in the area and the second one would be responding from a totally different part of the city. And if they had to go all the way around to get there, I think it's, when you're talking about life-saving issues, I think it's a real important issue to have as much ability to get to those areas. So I think it is prudent to leave that in there right now until police and fire can sit down and give an informed opinion about their response times. I looked at that chart in the report when I was reading it about the emergency response plan, and it's just too many rings for me to try and figure that one out. But from a practical application, one bridge getting into that area over there from the Vistancia side could be problematic for police and fire. Just my opinion. Thank you.
Madam Chair. Years ago, I used to do a little bit of real estate, and I ran into a similar situation where, this was in Glendale, where a development was taking place on two sides of a wash. And the comment that was essentially the same as this. They said, well, before we allow you to build north of the wash, you've got to build a bridge. And it's very expensive, as has already been stated. In a way, it delays development because you've got to take money from someplace else to get the bridge so that you can start earning your money for having built houses on the other side of the wash. As a solution, what we came up with was to put in what was then called a low-flow wash, so that in fact, if we could just cut the banks down, make it wide enough and perhaps blacktop it, then cars could go back and forth. We didn't have to build a bridge until such time as we could afford to build a bridge without causing a delay in the project. I would suggest that if we can look at saying something to the effect that, one, recognize we need access to the north of the canal. But this is the CAP, is it not? Forget it.
Madam Chair, let me clarify what my thinking is with number 13. So, and this is a question for staff. So if the stipulation remains as is and it gets ratified by the council, if there is another alternative that police and fire and the applicant work out and everybody's happy with, they're still mandated by the stipulation to put in a bridge. They'd have to go through a stipulation modification to remove it. In other words, if police, fire, and everybody else says, nope, we like this other solution, or we like this other approach to it, they would be locked in for this, correct?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, so throughout the process, I mean, this plan has been heavily studied by both public safety and our public works department as part of that. This stipulation comes from their interest. They're very interested in having this stipulation in place. However, as we stated, there are continuing discussions that are taking place on the development agreement. Certainly, we are aware of the concern with the strictness of the stipulation, so there'll be continuing discussions with them. And so to the extent that the police and fire and public works with respect to service delivery are interested in moderating that stipulation, that certainly is something that could occur either through the development agreement or the amended stipulation prior to going to council.
Thank you. I just didn't want to lock them into something that maybe nobody really wants 5 years from now or 10. Thank you. Madam Chair, I would move that we send a favorable recommendation to the City Council for Z03-05A.1, subject to the stipulations outlined in the staff report.
Second?
Is it on now? Okay. Do I have to repeat everything? Okay.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, I don't have a report from staff. I believe good. We've got the meetings up here. The November 5th is canceled. Our next regular scheduled meeting will be November 19th, and that's all I have this evening.
Okay. Commissioner Loper, did you have anything to say? Or I didn't clear you?
Yeah, I had two things. One, I still have not figured out the buttons, if the light's on or if the light's off, what it means. But what I wanted to say, and we never acknowledge these guys, but the two gentlemen that are helping out with the audio visual, I understand they had to go old school today. I wish you could put the cameras on yourself or turn them there, something. You guys are here, I mean, since you started doing this, over a decade ago, you're here tirelessly for this meeting, for other meetings that are throughout here, and I want to thank you for the work that you do on behalf of the citizens and getting the word out there to the public.
Thank you. Okay, any other reports or comments from the commissioners? Seeing no further business, I call this meeting adjourned.